you'll have 2 minutes to respond, plus 30 seconds of rebuttal each. We'll start with Mr. Pearson.
Thank you. So as many of you know, we have an incredibly diverse district, and this district includes 55,000 members of the Hasidic community. Those Hasids are divided between 2 major sects, the Aaronites and the Zionim. The sects don't get along. They often support different political candidates. The Zionim have long been courted by veto, and they went with Steve in the last election, to the degree that if they hadn't supported Steve, he actually would have finished 4th. It's fine to get your votes where you can. I have no problem with that. The problem is that this is a needy community. The average family income is just $19,000 a year. Since Steve got into office, he has completely and utterly ignored the entire 20,000 Aaronite community. He's refused to meet with them once. He's ignored their needs. They've reached out to him, and reached out to him, and reached out to him. They have poor children. They have many needs. Finally, about 2 months ago, you were confronted about this at an NKD meeting, actually, and you said, of course I'll reach out to you, of course I'll meet with you. So they reached out to you yet again. They called your office the next day, and the next day, and the next day after that, and still you continue to ignore 20,000 working class residents of this district. I'm wondering how you can justify that and who you are serving by doing so.
Well, the fact of the matter is that, one thing, there are not just 2 sects of Hasidic Jews in Williamsburg. There are actually many sects. And I've met with all of them numerous times. So when there have been issues that have come up around child care, after-school vouchers, I have met with all the leaders of all the issues, including the Aronis, including the Zalim, including the Kupas, and the Rosenberg, and the Bean, and the Vision. I meet with all on the issues that really matter when it comes to standing up for child care, standing up for equal access to education dollars. I have met with the leaders of those institutions. I don't ask which sect they belong to. I meet with them. My office, furthermore, has a policy, an open door policy to any constituent that comes to us. We receive calls from dozens of Hasidic constituents a month, easily, probably many dozens a month. We never ask what sect they belong to. We serve them, we serve their needs. If it's a question with NYCHA, a question with the school system, if it's a question about their child care vouchers, we serve those people. In addition, when the Aroni faction had an issue with the Department of Buildings around their mikvah, which is their ritual bath, I went to the Buildings Department. I worked with that community. I worked with the Deputy Commissioner of the Buildings Department to ensure that they got their building permit. So if some of the political folks in that community want to make a big issue about having a political meeting, that's one thing. When it comes to serving the constituents, I've been there time and again. My staff is there. Again, my office has an open door policy. We don't ask what sect you belong to. We ask, are you in need, and how can we help?
Steve, sometimes we have minor disagreements, and that's fine, and I'm happy to be polite about those, but frankly, what you just heard is a bald-faced lie. Talk to any member of the Aaronite community, and they will tell you he has completely and utterly ignored them. There was a measles outbreak in the school system in the entire Hasidic community over the summer. It was bad. Steve correctly organized a community outreach. He organized a measles information program, a meeting. He actively did not invite anyone from the 20,000 members of the Aaronite community. I talked to one of their school leaders, Isaac Sofer, who runs a school program with 6,000 students. And he tells me that Steve not only refuses to meet with them, but he refuses to even shake his hand when he crosses the street when he sees them coming. This is not appropriate behavior.
That's simply not true. In fact, I went back and anticipated that Mr. Pearson was going to say this, and so I looked at the email inviting yeshiva leaders to that measles meeting that we had a couple of months ago. And the head of Central UTA was on that email list, on that invitation. I'm not sure why he didn't come to the meeting, but he certainly was invited there.
I'm happy to make people available to the press relevant feedback.
I'll provide him with the email.
We'll discuss it.
All right, Councilman, you want to ask your question now?
So, Mr. Pierce, we are all here today to take part in the fundamental basic building blocks of democracy, which is coming out to vote, voting local, supporting a candidate or candidates for local office who represents our communities in our city. You said that you've lived here for 14 years. In that time, according to public record, you have never voted in a local election. Now here you are, here we both are, asking these wonderful people to cast their votes for us to represent them on the New York City Council in a local election. Can you explain why you never voted in a local election in New York City?
First of all, I do regret that. I've lived here 15 years, and voting or not voting doesn't always fully describe your commitment to a community. 2.5 years ago, my first daughter was born, and those of you who have children know well that this fundamentally alters your outlook on the community. No matter how much you care about your home and your neighborhood and your surrounding communities, having a daughter, raising a family, changes everything. It's why immediately after she was born, I immediately joined my community board, I became a member of the Democratic County Committee, and I'm doing everything possible to make our community not only better for me, but better for my daughter.
Great. Thank you. So we have about half an hour left, so we're going to take some questions from the audience. We have a few here. If anybody else wants to contribute questions, Lincoln has some index cards, and so get them from him and pass them back to him. He'll bring them up to us. These are each going to be a minute, so pretty short. We're going to start with a softball for fun. What's your favorite book?
Recent or all time?
Doesn't say. You can decide.
I'll go with recent. The book that I've most enjoyed recently is Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. Excellent.
Should I ask and why? Maybe to make that question a little more
It's a harrowing story of perseverance and courage. I recommend it to anybody in the audience. It's about an expedition to Mount Everest, but it's a phenomenal book and shows the power of will.
I have to go with two books. My life is very bifurcated at the moment. The Battle for Gotham. It's an incredible story of New York's history. Jane Jacobs versus Robert Moses. Spoiler, does not have a happy ending. Robert Moses wins. My other favorite book, I have to say, the old classic, Goodnight Moon. I read it every night to my daughter before she goes to bed. She knows most of the lines, and the ones that she doesn't know, she mumbles, and it's the most adorable thing ever, and she is the happiest little 2-year-old afterwards.
The next question, we'll start with Steve Ben. How will you assure current or enhanced services in our community as the municipal budget endures more cutbacks, taxes, higher property valuations, or will basic services just shrink?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
How will you assure current or enhanced services in our community as the municipal budget endures more cutbacks, taxes, higher property valuations, or will basic services just shrink?
I have two answers to that. The first answer is a broader budget answer. Our comptroller, John Luke, conducted a study a year or so ago, and it basically demonstrated that our overall tax structure in New York is actually one of the least progressive in the whole country. He estimated that if we made it more progressive, if we closed loopholes on Wall Street companies, we could not only cut the taxes of 93% of us citizens, but simultaneously raise $1.24 billion more every year. I would strongly advocate for those progressive tax reforms. Secondly, I would spend our discretionary funding considerably different than Councilman Levin. I would keep every last dollar in this district.
Well, thank you very much, whoever asked that question. That was a good question. I've actually am just introducing legislation right now calling on the State of New York to institute a Robin Hood tax, collecting tax revenue from Wall Street transactions. That's one thing that we can do to increase our city's budget. The city's budget is our defining document, and I've had 4 budgets now that I've been a part of, and each time I've fought for better services for our schools, more after-school programs, more child care programs, more transportation programs, more programs for the elderly. What it comes down to is priorities. We need to do a better job. We on the City Council need to do a better job of holding the administration's feet to the fire, using our budget authority that we have as per the charter to say that we're not going to spend all of this money on consultants, we're not going to spend all this money on outside contractors. The contract budget is in the billions of dollars. So there's money in the budget to reprioritize towards our communities. But when it comes down to it, we need to look at Wall Street transactions to get more revenue out of that. And to be honest with you, folks that are making more than $1 million a year need to be able to do more in income taxes for the city of New York.
Okay, next question is actually more of a statement, I think, for you to respond to. We need express bus service from Greenpoint, Williamsburg, directly to Midtown over the 59th Street Bridge. Middle Village has an express bus to Manhattan, especially after Superstorm Sandy. We need better transportation, and even more so with massive development coming to Greenpoint. Can we respond to that?
As you all know, and judging by the applause you do know, Greenpoint has long been on the short end of the transportation stick. G-Train service has been pathetic. We all know about the G-Train Sprint. First and foremost, we need to fully implement the recommendations, all of them, from the MTA's full-on review of the G-Train. My understanding is that we're about $700,000 short of being able to do that. I would make it my highest priority to fight for that money. Secondly, ferry service. Every 20 minutes during rush hour is absolutely unacceptable. Third, with these major developments planned, I don't see how we can possibly maintain a viable transportation network with up to 20,000 new residents coming in. I would absolutely demand to see a full comprehensive transportation impact study before anything else goes forward with this project. Third, we need safer streets. I would advocate strongly for more slow zones, more bikeways, and bike share to immediately come to Greenpoint.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. We do need an express bus service over the 59th Street Bridge. I've worked with Assemblyman Joe Lentol and Congresswoman Maloney on getting a new bus line that's going to be going up the western side of Greenpoint, and our goal long term is to get that to go into Midtown over the 59th Street Bridge. I've worked over the last 3.5 years with my staff on getting the East River Ferry service up and running. Now, so that's something that I work long and hard with EDC on making sure that we're getting the fares as low as possible, and that we're getting as much city subsidy to that program so that we can continue to decrease the fares and get more service. And as a result, it has been a tremendous success. Can it be better? Absolutely. And I look forward to making sure that that is implemented. When it comes to major developers providing transportation, when Domino was rezoned in 2010, I fought and succeeded in getting a bus service that goes directly to the M train at Marcy, and that was committed to by the previous developer. So there's a lot to do, but we have accomplished a lot over the past few years.
The next question is, how will you deal with Vito Lopez if he's elected to the city council on the 3rd Ward?
Can you even answer that question?
Well, first off, I want to make it clear that I've called on Vito Lopez to not run for the city council. So I don't think it would serve the body well to have him there, and I don't think he should be running at all. I'll make that very, very clear.
So he's been in touch. So he's been
I
in
don't intend to have a working relationship with Vito Lopez. I haven't spoken to the man in many months, and so I don't intend on having a working relationship.
Which a chief of staff who did constantly.
You know, I wish Mr. Reynoso very well
Many
because
months.
I think that he's a very good candidate, and so you know, I don't think that Vito Lopez should be running for the seat at all.
There are many places I could begin on this one. Let me start by saying that